It started with a letter. The envelope arrived on a stormy afternoon, its elegant parchment damp from the rain, but the ink intact. My name, James Crane, was etched on it in a cursive script that radiated an eerie charm. Inside, a brief invitation. Audition for our exclusive production. The Harrow Theater, 8 p.m. Prepare a monologue. Dress to impress. I'd never heard of the Harrow Theater, but the allure of a mysterious, high-profile audition was irresistible to a struggling actor like me. It was as if the universe had handed me a golden ticket, a chance to escape my routine of dead-end auditions and understudy roles. When I arrived, the theater loomed like a specter. Cracked gargoyles perched above the crumbling facade, and ivy clawed at its walls. Its marquee, though rusted and faint, still bore the name Harrow in flickering lights. Inside, the air smelled of mildew and something sweeter. Roses? No, it was subtler, like a memory of roses. The lobby was deserted, save for a single spotlight illuminating a desk where a script waited. No receptionist, no greeter, just a script. A note was attached. Perform Scene 12. Recite your lines from the stage. The title of the monologue caught my attention. Versailles Whisper. It was peculiar, an ode to a perfume. Speak to the fragrance as if it is a lover. The stage directions read. Odd choice, but not the strangest thing I'd encountered in my career. I stepped into the theater, the vast darkness beyond the stage swallowing the faint light from a lobby. Rows of velvet seats stretched endlessly, their crimson fabric dull and threadbare. The stage itself seemed alive underfoot, though it creaking like old bones. I took my mark center stage and cleared my throat. Versailles, Whisper, I began, letting my voice resonate. At first, it felt exhilarating. My voice filled the space, the words floating through the dusty air. But as I continued, something shifted. The walls around me shimmered, their surfaces flickering like old film reels. Shadows crept along the periphery, moving unnaturally, as if they were watching. I finished the monologue and waited, but no voice responded. Then, from the back of the theater, a sound emerged, a slow, deliberate clap. Again, said a voice, smooth and cold, though I couldn't pinpoint its source. A spotlight snapped on, nearly blinding me. I shielded my eyes, but the light compelled me. It pinned me to my spot. Again, the voice repeated. So, I recited the monologue again. The words tasted strange in my mouth now, almost metallic. The walls flickered more violently, and the spotlight seemed to grow hotter, its beams suffocating. When I finished this time, the applause erupted louder, though I still saw no one. That's when I noticed the first row of seats. They weren't empty anymore. Figures, faint, translucent, and ghastly, sat silently, their hollow eyes fixed on me. Their mouths were unmoving, yet I could feel their disdain. Again, the voice commanded. I wanted to protest, to demand answers, but my lips betrayed me. They moved on their own, spilling the same words like an incantation. As I spoke, the audience multiplied. Row by row, the phantoms materialized, their faces devoid of emotion, but their eyes alive with sinister hunger. After what felt like an eternity, I stopped, panting. I tried to leave, but my feet were rooted to the stage. The spotlight tightened its grip, and the voice came again, this time closer, whispering. Not yet. You must perform perfectly. The seats crept closer with every repetition. Their proximity was suffocating, their presence a thick, oppressive fog. The audience now filled every row, their applause deafening. And then I saw him, the shadowy director, perched in the balcony. His face was obscured by a swirling haze of smoke. He leaned forward, his long fingers drumming on the railing. Encore, he hissed. My voice cracked. I can't. But I did. I don't know how long I performed. Days? Weeks? Time unraveled, slipping through my fingers like sand. The words of the monologue blurred until they became gibberish. Yet the audience never wavered. At some point, the spotlight vanished, and the darkness embraced me. I collapsed, expecting relief, maybe even death. But when I opened my eyes, I wasn't alone on stage anymore. I was in the audience. Rows of translucent figures surrounded me, their faces now familiar. They were the actors who had come before me, and on the stage stood a new victim, nervously reciting Versailles Whisper. I tried to scream, to warn them, but I couldn't. My hands moved of their own accord, joining the others in slow, thunderous applause. The forest had always been a mystery to me, the kind of place whispered about in hushed tones during family gatherings. Laura was the one who convinced me to go. She always did. Her determination was a force of nature, and I found myself agreeing before I could even process the weight of her words. "We'll find it, Alex," she said, excitement sparkling in her eyes. "The spring is real." The air turned colder as we ventured deeper into the Pacific Northwest forest. Mist wove between the trees, casting everything in a silvery haze. The only sound was the crunch of leaves beneath our boots and the occasional rustling of unseen creatures. The deeper we went, the heavier the silence grew, pressing against my ears like cotton. It wasn't long before we noticed the symbols. At first, they seemed harmless, simple carvings in the bark of ancient trees, shaped like spirals or runes I couldn't recognize. But the deeper we wandered, the more intricate they became, their jagged edges almost pulsing with energy. Laura studied them intently, her fingers brushing over the grooves. "They're markers," she murmured. "Guides. Maybe someone's been here before." I wasn't so sure. The air felt wrong, charged with something I couldn't name. Still, we pressed on, driven by the promise of wishes and the thrill of the unknown. Hours, or maybe days, blurred together as we walked. Time seemed to lose meaning under the canopy of twisted branches and perpetual mist. Our water ran low. Our legs ached, yet the forest stretched endlessly before us. Then came the moment I realized we weren't alone. It started small. A glint of light in the corner of my eye. The faint sound of whispers that stopped the moment I turned my head. Laura dismissed it, calling it tricks of the fog. But when we found my jacket, folded neatly on a moss-covered rock, I knew something was wrong. "That's impossible," I said, my voice trembling. "I left this back at the clearing." Laura frowned, her confidence flickering like a candle in the wind. "Maybe we're just going in circles. Let's mark the next tree." We did. Or at least, we thought we did. Hours later, the same symbol stared back at us, carved into a tree we were sure we hadn't passed before. This time, there was no denying it. We were trapped in a loop. Fear sank its claws into us as we began to test the boundaries of the forest. We ran, sprinting in one direction until our lungs burned and our legs threatened to give out. Yet no matter how far we went, the same eerie trees and swirling mist greeted us. We left behind breadcrumbs, scraps of cloth, water bottles, even a family photo from Lara's wallet, but every marker reappeared, taunting us. Then came the hooded figure. It emerged from the mist as though it had been born of it, a tall silhouette draped in tattered robes. Its face was obscured, but I felt its gaze heavy and invasive. "You are lost," it said, its voice a low, melodic hum. "But I can help you." Laura grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my skin. "What are you?" she demanded. "I am the keeper of memories," it replied, "the guardian of this forest. I offer you a way out, but all things come with a price." I didn't trust it. Something about the way it stood, so still, so calculated, made my stomach churn. But desperation gnawed at the edges of my sanity. "What do you want?" I asked, my voice cracking. It turned its hooded head toward me. "Your most cherished memory." Laura was the first to refuse. "We don't need your help," she said, her voice firm. "We'll find our own way out." The keeper didn't argue. It simply faded into the mist, leaving us alone once more. But the forest seemed angrier after that. The fog thickened, the symbols on the trees glowing faintly like embers in the darkness. And then the worst began. It started with small things, forgetting why we'd come here, losing track of how many times we'd circled the same clearing. But soon, larger pieces of me began to slip away. My favorite childhood memory of fishing with Dad vanished, as if it had never been. The sound of Lara's laughter at my terrible jokes dimmed until it was nothing more than an echo. I couldn't even remember what had drawn us to the forest in the first place. Each time the loop reset, I lost more, and each time the keeper returned. "Alex," Laura pleaded, her voice cracking as I stumbled over my own feet. "You have to fight it. Don't let it take you." But I couldn't fight. I didn't even know what I was fighting anymore. When the keeper appeared again, Lara's resolve shattered. "I'll do it," she said, stepping forward. Her voice wavered, but her eyes were steady. "Take what you want, but let him go." "No!" I shouted, though my voice sounded distant, hollow. I reached for her, but my limbs felt sluggish, as though the forest itself was holding me back. The keeper extended a bony hand toward her. "Your memory of him, your bond, it will be the price." She hesitated only for a moment before nodding. I screamed as the world dissolved into blinding white light. When I awoke, I was lying at the edge of the forest, the mist receding behind me. My head throbbed, and my chest ached with a grief so profound it stole the breath from my lungs. But I didn't know why. I stumbled to my feet, my legs carrying me away from the forest. Something told me never to look back. Yet as I walked, tears streamed down my face, and emptiness clawed at my soul. I couldn't remember her name. I couldn't remember her face. But I knew I had lost something, someone precious. The forest kept her, and it left me with nothing but the hollow weight of forgetting.